Hello, everybody. This is Steve O'Reilly with SkinnyPost.com. I am joined today via phone feed with Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, now of the Philadelphia Eagles. Dominique, nice to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Hey man, pretty glad to be on. Glad to be on.
So let's talk a little bit. Obviously, the Eagles are, the main headliner right now in all NFL news. They're bringing in talent like crazy. They've acquired you via trade for Kevin Kolb. They've brought in Nnamdi Asomugha, Jason Babin, just a bunch of talented guys up and down the board. Has that affected anything or your approach to the way that you look at the game this year, so to speak? I mean, can you guys feel that, there's a sense of urgency, if you will, or is it just business as usual?
Yeah, I believe it's just business as usual. Everybody just coming in and trying to compete and win and play for the Super Bowl.
Right. Now, what about the trade itself? At what point did you know that you were actually traded? I mean, you and I were kind of texting back and forth before the trade, and I don't know if you were just being cavalier with me that you didn't know anything or if you just genuinely didn't know anything, but when did you find out exactly that you were traded? How did it go down?
Shoot, about the same time everybody else found out. I truly didn't know anything. I was just blind to the fact. And when I got that call, I was sort of shocked, but you know what I'm saying. I understand why and I understand why it happened and why it had to happen. So, I wasn't too disappointed.
Right. And you did obviously some real good things out in Arizona. You made a name for yourself. I don't think any Cardinals fans should hold any kind of ill will towards you. You gave it 110%, obviously, and in the end it was a decision that was out of your hands anyway. So, going forward, looking at the Eagles, I mean, obviously you've only been to a few practices, have been to what, two or three maybe tops. Is the sense for you, what's the change like? What's the adjustment period like? How different is it? Is it the same? Is it different completely? Talk to us a little bit about you personally and your approach with this new team.
I mean, it's still football. I think the only thing that's changed is just getting in, getting to know the guys and getting a feel for the team as they get a feel for you and just understanding, your surroundings and where you're at and just coming to a whole new team, period. That's the only thing I think different. At the end of the day, you still got to come in and compete and do what is expected of you.
Mm-hmm. Now, you guys have obviously a glut at cornerback. By far the best cornerback tandem in the NFL. You've got Asante Samuel, Nnamdi Asomugha, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. All of you have been at the highest level. Pro Bowls, you name it, you've done it. The competition obviously is fierce, but at the same time, you're teammates. But you're not going to concede anything, and no one else will either. I mean, everybody wants to be that number one guy. You're all professionals. Have you had some banter, if you will, or some conversations with those guys, getting to know them, maybe about who's going to do what and who's not, so to speak? Maybe some friendly back and forth, or is it just pretty quiet right now, still feeling each other out?
Nah, man, all three are happy, man. All three are glad to be around each other. It's just a learning thing. We haven't talked about who's gonna play, who's gonna do this. Just coming in and just competing, and whatever happens between now and then, it just happens. I think I'm comfortable with any situation I'm gonna be put in.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk a little bit to us about Andy Reid and your conversations with him specifically. As the coaching staff came up to you and told you, this is how we're going to kind of model our defense and this is how we see you fitting into it? Or is everything maybe perhaps a little bit more just going through the routines at this point of getting back into football drills, getting your bodies right, not too scheme-oriented, just more getting ready for football? Which one?
Everything is just getting ready for football. You go out there, practice, go through the drills, line up. Sometimes you play left, sometimes you play right. It's just basically just getting the feel of football.
Mm-hmm. Now, your experience being from the NFC and having played, NFC teams, you're going into the NFC East now, which has always been one of the tougher divisions in the NFC. You've got Giants, you've got Cowboys, you've got Redskins, and obviously the loaded Eagles. So it's definitely one of the tougher divisions. How does that play effect to you, do you think, about the team's mindset as far as winning your division going up against these guys week in and week out. Does that have any bearing whatsoever on people's decision to come to the Eagles, or in competing against other teams that are obviously high quality?
Nah, that not to me. It don't have nothing to do with me. Just coming here, what the organization is and what it stands for, and how this is the winning organization, and everybody here expect to win. So main thing is just going out there and just competing and doing your job. I mean, regardless of who we play, I don't think that matters.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles fans. I mean, as we all know in the football world, Eagles fans are very passionate, and they support their team through and through. In your short period of time up in Philly, have you felt any of that? Have you noticed any of that these fans are very passionate about their team?
Yes, sir. Every time you come out for practice, man, it's always a good group of fans out there, always cheering and screaming and excited, and you can just hear it coming from them while you're in practice.
Yeah. And now, you're a Bradenton boy down here from Florida, not too far away from obviously where I am. And also after, your pro career started out in Arizona, so you've kind of always been, a warm weather guy. Do you think that that's going to have any influence on you come in the middle of wintertime, being up there in the Northeast in those cold conditions? Are you mentally preparing for that at all?
Yeah, I really am, because I knew what I was coming into when I got traded, this being playing outside and having those cold games. So mentally, I am prepared.
Yeah. What do you do to prepare? What can you do, really? You just have to face
Yeah,
it as a.
you really can't do nothing about it. You just got to play through
Well, I'm sure your time in Arizona, being a seasoned veteran, you've played in the cold before, and obviously it's nothing new. You've been in the NFL for a few years now, so you're used to it. I think maybe you just have to get used to it a little bit more regularly.
Right. And I think that'll come naturally.
Right. Let's talk a little bit. Obviously you're in practice and you're focusing on yourself and you're focusing on your job, and this is a profession and you've got to come to work every day and go to work. But have you taken an opportunity maybe in between drills, or, during a break period where you're drinking some water, to look around the field and see all the talent that's out there? Guys like Vic running around, and, Macklin, and, I know Deshaun Jackson's not doing his thing quite yet, but this team has just got so much talent. Do you ever just stop and look around and say, wow, look at all these players we got?
Nah, not really, not too much. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I don't really want to get distracted from at the task at hand. 'Cause I am a new guy and I really have a lot to learn and just get familiarized with just the defense and the scheme and the people. But if you sit down and you do think about it, you are with a lot of great players on the team, and sometimes you catch yourself like when you see Vic drop back and take off in practice, you be like, hey man, that Mike Vic, so you get that sometimes, but I try to keep it down.
Right. Now, you obviously have been to a Super Bowl. You know what it's like to be there. Unfortunately, you guys didn't win when you were with Arizona, but you know playoff football. You've been there. Going into this team, you have to feel, and I think the whole league feels, that you guys are definitely a contender to win a Super Bowl. Is your experience playing in a Super Bowl, is that going to help you and eventually help your teammates and some of the guys that you're around, saying, I don't know. Explain it. Maybe I'm overlooking it or oversimplifying it, but obviously there's a different level of football when you get to the highest core, like Super Bowl level. So do you see things now that you maybe think, this is how we need to be working, or this is how we need to approach it if we're going to get to that pinnacle?
Nah, that ain't nothing I could deal with. I just come in and do what's asked of me. Just come in, work hard, and get ready for a season.
All right.
I don't too much look around too much. It's all about grinding right now.
Right. Now, let's talk about that specifically. Week in and week out, day in and day out, going up against these receivers. Has the coaching staff of the Eagles said in any way that they prefer this sort of coverage over that sort of coverage, or anything that maybe takes you out of your comfort zone? Or at the end of the day, is it just get the job done?
Man, at the end of the day, just get the job done.
So that's it.
Really is not. I'm not putting in schemes, so it's all about just playing football right now.
Right. Now, you yourself personally are very fast. Okay, you're clocked in the 4.2, high 4.2s, and you guys got a lot of guys with your kind of speed. Have you noticed, and maybe some drills that there's a lot of fast players on this team?
Yeah, oh yeah, this is a very fast team, offense, defense, special teams. We got a lot of guys that can really run, and I think when the season comes, it's going to be played at a high level.
Well, Dominique, we thank you so much for taking your time, in between your practices tonight. Obviously, I know you need to get to bed soon. Probably got a busy day again tomorrow. But we thank you so much for taking the time to sit and chat with us and give us the skinny on the Eagles camp and what's going on up there in Philly. And we wish you nothing but the best in your endeavors here in 2011. And best of luck on that voyage to the Super Bowl.
I appreciate it, my man.